Okay, welcome everyone to our Let's Go Zero webinar on building a culture of sustainability in your school. Um, we have some fantastic speakers for you today. First up, we have Frances Hyland, the National Coordinator of Eco Schools. Then we'll hear from Suzanne Bearblock at Hollinswood Primary School and Julia Rowlandson at St Bart's Multi Academy Trust. Before we hear from them, my name's Alison. I'm a school project officer at Let's Go Zero. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of Let's Go Zero and the work we do, and then Max Evans, my colleague, he will read out any questions you have for our speakers at the end. So we'll have a 10-minute Q&A at the end of the session. So please remember to put any questions you might have in the Q&A box or the chat box, and they will get read out. So for those of you who don't know, Let's Go Zero is a national campaign for all schools, colleges and nurseries to be zero carbon by 2030. We have over 6,500 schools signed up to the campaign, and that number is growing every day. So Let's Go Zero is run by Ashton, but we're part of a coalition, and we now have 20 organisations from Eco Schools to Global Action Plan, Fair Trade, WWF, and we all work collaboratively. So we try not to reinvent the wheel. We will signpost to each other's projects, each other's resources. And we also have a number of partners, including the Department of Education's Sisterhood projects, the National Education Nature Park, the Climate Ambassadors, and the Sustainability Support Hub. So by signing up to our campaign, you will get access to our monthly newsletter, which has a lot of signposting to different funding pots, different guidance. You'll be first to hear about the competitions we run, giving out funding for nature projects in schools. We run a series of webinars such as this one on different topics. Lots of free resources. You'll also have access to our network of climate action advisors. So these are advisors based regionally throughout England, and they work more one-on-one with schools to create climate action plans, offer you bespoke advice. They are free. So please do log on to our website and get in touch. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Frances Hyland, the National Coordinator at Eco Schools. So Frances, over to you.
Hello, I'll just begin sharing my screen. And what I'm going to do today is just give you like a really quick overview of the Eco Schools program, obviously in regards to building a culture for sustainability in your school. So what Eco Schools is a really simple 7-step framework. And once you've worked through that, you can apply for our internationally recognized environmental accreditation. It's sort of been designed for people who want to make a difference in their school, but they don't necessarily know where to begin, how to maintain momentum, what they should be doing. And it's just a really great way to introduce environmental activity. I always say that, doing environmental activity in your school is a good. That shouldn't necessarily need to be recognized with an accreditation. But at the same time, we are human beings, and getting that recognition, it just gives the young people who are working through the process the confidence to hopefully continue engaging with environmental issues throughout their lifetimes. The main aim of the program is to empower young people to take a lead on environmental action in their school and local community. So that's really at the heart of what we do, involving young people in that decision-making process. And as I said, it also encourages educators to include environmental issues in their learning. I have realized I've got like a slight problem with my microphone since I've joined this call. So if you hear me starting to get louder, that's what I'm trying to do, because I've just noticed in the chat somebody saying it's quite difficult to hear me, and I do tend to be quite softly spoken anyway. So the 7 steps for the Eco Schools program are to form an eco committee. So that's a group of young people who will take responsibility for the program. I always think of them as a green version of a school council. They will complete the EcoSchools environmental review. This is one of our free resources, and for me, it's probably our most valuable resource. It's about 110 questions long, and it asks young people about facilities they have in their school. And the idea is they'll either answer yes or no, and if they answer no to a question, they perhaps think, oh, but perhaps that is something we can do in the future. Like we might want to introduce bug hotels, we might want to investigate solar panels, etc. The children on your eco committee decide on an action plan where they work on 3 of our 10 topics. It's really flexible and they're free to choose to work on the issues that they're most passionate about. We never dictate what projects should be undertaken. We never tell schools how big they should be or how much they should cost. It's entirely up to the school. And it works really well because it means that schools are working on things that are manageable for them and interesting to the young people they're working with. Step 4 is gathering environmental curriculum links. So just teaching about environmental issues in your school. A lot of teachers tend to say to me, like, it's a real add-on and, aren't we doing enough already? But my advice in this regard is to have environmental issues in your back pocket when you're planning your learning. So when I was a teacher myself, I used to always struggle to think of contextual learning opportunities that would engage all young people, but environmental issues is the golden ticket that does all of that. Step 5 is informing and involving others, so just making sure that you're inspiring other people by talking about the environmental initiatives in your school and where possible making opportunities to expand the reach of your projects by involving those beyond your school boundaries. Step 6, monitoring the projects in your action plan, just checking that they are going to plan, they are successful, and if not, making changes. And then step 7 is creating an eco code, which is like an environmental mission statement for your school. But designed to take an academic year to work through. Whilst we always use the word step, they don't necessarily have to be linear. There is significant overlap. You might decide on your action plan in October and continue working on it until the end of July. That's absolutely fine. The steps empower young people and help create forward-thinking leaders of tomorrow. That's the aim of our program, to make a difference now, whilst providing young people with the skills to continue making a difference throughout their lifetime. The steps do provide a really nice structure, starting point and timeline, and they're great for initiating manageable, impactful, and sustainable changes in your setting. When you register with the EcoSchools program, it's free and you gain access to a wealth of resources designed to guide you through each step of the process and spark inspiration along the way. I mentioned that we allow young people to choose from 3 of our 10 topics to work on, and those topics are designed to break larger global issues like climate change into more manageable and directed themes. Like the 7 steps, many topics have a natural overlap. And I actually think that's quite a nice thing because environmental issues do all overlap with one another. So it's quite useful for children to understand that at a young age. As mentioned, we don't dictate what a school should do or how big their project should be. We just ask that 3 topics are worked on. And we encourage schools to use resources and activities from other charities and organizations if they help. We're really proud to be part of that Let's Go Zero coalition. And if you receive our monthly newsletter when you sign up, you will see that we are always promoting the best in environmental action that we see from our charity friends. In terms of what schools get up to for each topic, we have biodiversity, and that tends to involve a lot of creation of insect and animal habitats, bird feeders, bug hotels, things like that. Rewilding areas of school and installing bird feeders and other facilities. It might be ponds, bird baths, things like that. All great activities. For energy, we do see investment in green technology, whether that's LED lighting or simply solar panels. We also see lots of schools appointing energy monitors, and I really like that one because it sort of promotes behavior change as well. So I always think like technological advances are great for cutting carbon, but we also need to change our behaviors. For global citizenship, we see lots of schools introducing ethical products and working on things like Fair Trade Fortnight happening in September next year. We also see lots of young people organising fundraising events. I read about a wonderful one yesterday who had raised £700 for butterfly conservation projects. And we also see lots of community action too, whether that's collecting for a food bank or visiting local care facilities. For healthy living, we see lots of schools introducing more plant-based options, whether that's meat-free Monday or an improved vegetarian or vegan menu in their school canteen. We see lots of children getting involved with growing fruit and vegetables and also connecting with nature. So building nice sensory gardens and things like that, which can support mental well-being. Litter tends to involve litter pick, but it might also be improving facilities. I've quite often seen schools installing flaps on bins to prevent seagulls and things like that, or it might be tackling at the source through awareness raising campaigns. Marine tends to involve reducing the use of single-use plastics, so identifying what the school canteen is using, for example, and seeing if there's anything that can be swapped out for it. And we also see artivism, which, as long as art has existed, it's being used to promote political change. So that's a really nice one for young people to focus on too. For school grounds, we see tree planting, allotment areas and greenhouses being created, or perhaps outdoor classrooms. For transport, promoting active travel, whether that's through walk to school days or travel tracking. If it's not necessarily possible for all children to walk to school, we also see walking buses introduced and park and strides, or school streets are becoming increasingly popular. Waste focuses on the waste hierarchy, so children might organise second-hand sales. They might clearly label recycling bins to prevent contamination, anything like that. And water often focuses on identifying leaks and improving infrastructure. Having worked through the 7 steps, schools can apply for Green Flag accreditation. And as I mentioned, it's just a great way to recognise and reward young people and also to sell your school. You're doing something great, so you might as well showcase it. The application form is entirely online and designed to be completed as you progress throughout the year. Applications can be submitted during a window which opens on the 1st of May and closes on the 31st of July every year. There is unfortunately a fee of £200 plus VAT should you choose to apply, but I guarantee that just goes to supporting the programme. I promise I'm not driving a Ferrari around Liverpool or anything like that. You can register for free at ecoschools.org.uk and then you can access all of our resources, view our criteria and begin an application. Every year we demonstrate the impact of young people across the nation. One of our roles is to show people that small actions can create big impacts. You can see some of them on the screen there, and obviously I'll share this PowerPoint. And in terms of advice, all I would say is the EcoSchools programme is designed to be positive and always focuses on what you have been able to achieve rather than critiquing environmental actions not taken yet, because having worked in a school, I know you can't do everything all at once. The programme is long term. As I say, you can't make all the changes you'd like to within a year, and that is not our expectation. It's all about making actions and projects manageable, and that means they're more likely to succeed and become an embedded part of school life, which you can build on in the future. And that is me done, which a bit of a rush at the end there, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Francis. That was a great, I think a great bit to end on. Small, manageable steps. Remember, everyone, if you have questions for Francis, we will cover them at the end. So please do put them in the Q&A box or the chat box. So I'm now going to hand over to Suzanne Bearblock from Hollinswood Primary School. You should be able to see the slides. Suzanne, over to you, if you let me know when to change them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alison. So I don't trust my tech very well. So I have asked Alison if she will be in charge of the slide deck. So this is us. We are a primary school and nursery, and we are in Shropshire. And a few years ago, the local authority asked us what we would like the world to be in 10 years' time. And you can just see there on the right-hand side, those were a few things that my year twos said. So if you move on to the next slide, please. I can tell you a little bit about our sustainability journey. So I started doing this 15 years ago at Hollingswood. We were at that time an infant school and nursery. We merged with the junior school, and now we are a primary on 2 sites, but we are connected by a pathway. We have a lot of green space, a wooded area for Forest School that I lead, and that every class has multiple sessions out a year. And then we are in an urban setting though. We are right on the edge of a wooded valley and a town park. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you a little idea about the staff involvement. So it's really important, I think, to have an eco lead that is a staff person. I have been that volunteer person when I was a mum at home as the eco lead, and it is difficult to have a lot of the conversations that I think you need to have if you're not on staff. Senior leadership buy-in is an essential. And then from there, getting the staff buy-in from all areas of your school, whether that's the office, the grounds, all the classrooms, the kitchen is our biggest win to have the cook on board. We have worked very hard to embed this into the curriculum, sustainability, and into the school culture as well. And my biggest thing I wish I knew 15 years ago was that I should have started gathering data at the beginning. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a thing at school that I like to make it fun, but I also like it to be really visible. And if I don't make it easy, the teachers won't get involved. So we choose a focus. I would recommend starting an eco committee, but use the best model for your setting. So my setting initially was all year twos, and that was fine. Then we moved to reception through year 2 children from each group. And beyond that, unfortunately, when we merged, I had reception through year 6. I'm sure you can imagine how difficult that was to plan for. It was also very difficult to get meaningful results. So that is what I would recommend, meeting regularly to keep everybody engaged, especially the children. The other thing we've done in the last 3 years is I set up a sustainability working group, and I have members from all areas of school. So the business manager, teaching assistants from both key stages, the cook, the learning mentors. And from that, we have created this cross-departmental group, which has been wonderful for having conversations throughout school and hearing what everybody else is doing. I would also suggest that you share what's happening. So if you have an internal or external comms where you can schedule everything, do that. Be brave, get started, and just stop if it's not working, move on to something else. Next slide, please. So I have a couple of slides here to show you my eco committee in action. So they wanted to know what had been happening in school, big actions and small actions. And what they did was they did a big mind map. The one on the left is what they think eco committee is already championing, and on the right is what's happening within the rest of school. Next slide, please. This is their final 2 huge mind maps, and they ran an assembly for all 400 children in the school. And I think that gives them more confidence. It makes them feel really engaged with what they're trying to share as a message for the rest of the school. And interestingly enough, we had teachers come up afterwards and say, oh, I was looking for my activity and I saw it. So I think that's really nice reinforcement beyond what all the eco committee are learning in terms of skills, but also in terms of the staff and children in individual classes feeling that their actions are recognized. So the next slide is one that we did as an infographic. So this is everything we did in 2022, 2023. We do it every couple of years. We're working on a new one now. And this is us asking everybody in school to tell us what they have contributed to. Now, sometimes not everybody replies. I'm sure that isn't a big surprise. What we have done is when we ran this assembly, we did this particular one on Teams into each classroom, and we had an eco committee member stationed in every single classroom. So when we muted for the classes to discuss what they were doing. Eco Committee scribed, and then we uploaded into the main document for those teachers that hadn't told us what was happening yet. So I guess what I'm saying there is there's more than one way to get your data and to share it out afterwards. If you're, thinking this is just not working, think creatively about how you can find out what else is happening in school. And when we share this kind of an infographic, people look at it and say, oh, I didn't know they did that. Oh, we could do that. So it really helps with having different topics move throughout the school and not be restricted to one year group. Okay, next slide, please. Allison said, don't reinvent the wheel. I was really glad she said that, because we have done this multiple times over the last 15 years. The most recent being this one. So we created a digital cleanup challenge. It runs over 6 weeks with a different focus each week. And little did we know, if you show us the next slide, please, that there is an International Digital Cleanup Day that started the same year that we put in all the work to create ours. So I would say whatever you're thinking of, no matter how niche it is, see if there is a wider national or international campaign. Now, I was not going to run this campaign again, but my eco committee just kept saying, when is it happening? When is it happening? When is it happening? And so we ran it again, and everybody gets involved. So the other big part of this campaign is the next slide, which shows that public recognition really counts. So people will say to me, I filled out your Google form, but I don't see my name anywhere. So I started doing a word cloud of everybody who had done each of the challenges. And you know what? That goes a long way to getting people to do more of what you ask them to. Next slide, please. So another big area that we're working on is food. So this started about 8 years ago, looking at food waste, how we could reduce it. We separated it out. We sent it to an anaerobic digester. But since we started working with Let's Go Zero, we've been really fortunate to get a hot bin. And so we are now treating all of our waste on site. That's the big goal. We still have our food waste bin to go and be collected in an emergency. But in general, we're trying to do it all on site. It was falling down a little bit in the dinner hall, so we introduced some waste warriors who help steer the children to making sure everything is scraped into the right place. We capture all that food waste, and the big bonus is we're not finding recyclable plastic in the regular bin section now. It has its own section. So this is empowering the year 5s who are the monitors, but also getting all the children thinking about this. We're also working on thinking about food in a different way. Where does food come from? Can we use surplus food? And that's a picture of the smoothie bike that we used with some surplus food that was going to go to waste. Next slide, please. So I'll let you just have a look at this. I won't read all the barriers out for you, but just to give you an idea that most of the barriers that come forward, if you're thinking creatively, especially if you ask your eco committee how they want to approach it, they will come up with different ways to get around getting the campaign they want going or to get people engaged. I asked them yesterday, what would you like to do 10% more of? And they had some really great ideas. And that then helps us decide what we're going to winnow it down to in terms of our big focus. The other thing off this slide, I would say, is if it's not working, move on. Make yourself replaceable. Don't take all of this on just as you. And if funding finishes, move on and find something else. That happened to us with TerraCycle pen collection. So next slide, please. There are a few programs that we already are engaged with, and that will come out to you in the slides. I won't read them all to you, but it's a wide variety of different programs that we are involved with. And then the next one is what I would do if I would start again. So if I wasn't doing this from a 15-year history and building it from the ground up, this is what I would do. I would embed sustainability into the school curriculum from the start. We have been a bolt-on for years with Eco Committee, trying to find space in the diary to get the teachers to do our programs. But now that we're getting into the curriculum, it's made a massive difference with engagement and also, frankly, with my not feeling I'm banging my head against the wall sometimes. I would choose a program that will support you. And I cannot recommend enough joining Let's Go Zero, because the amount of support you get, your climate action plan, the cheerleading you get, honestly, I'm not on retainer here. It is definitely worth doing. You can see there that I've said apply for awards, but my biggest thing is celebrate your successes. And then I'll just finish by letting you see a few of the awards that we have earned. And there are more besides, but I just felt this would give you a flavor of what you could choose if you do the awards. And the kids feel really engaged, and they love to tell everybody not only what they've done, but they've done and done well. So I think that would be the end, Alison.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You've done an incredible amount at your school. I love the infographic. I think that's a great idea, a real visual way of kind of, like you say, celebrating all the success. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to hand over to Julie Rowlandson from St Bart's Multi-Academy Trust. Julie, over to you.
Hi, that was really inspiring. I want one of those infographics. Thank you. It's loads of great ideas. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint. One tick. Can you see that? Awesome. So I'm sustainability lead for St Bart's Multi-Academy Trust. I'm a former head teacher, forest school leader, been passionate about this all throughout my career. And I'm lucky enough now to do this full time for our trust. We're a trust based in Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire, Cheshire and Shropshire. We have 23 schools, mostly primary with some special needs schools as well. So quite differing contexts. And we started our journey with inquiry from the children, staff and trustees who really wanted to know what we were going to do about sustainability within the trust. So when tasked with this, I started off with data. Always start with data, and pose some questions about what data we already had, what we would need to measure, and what we would do with that. I won't read through those, but those are the sorts of questions that I was asking at the start of our journey. And when I gathered that data, it was used in many different ways. So to understand, gather that really deep understanding of the contextual challenges and barriers that each of our different schools faced, looking at where they were at in terms of basics like energy consumption, but also things like, have they got forest schools? Have they got allotments? What are the key priorities that they want to look at in their schools? And then using that to focus on what we could spend, like every school and trust in the country, we've got very limited resources. So we had to be really careful what we were spending that on. And also using that to monitor over time, look at how usage patterns were changing, looking at where we were succeeding, where we maybe needed to tweak the plan a little bit. And we also brought in specialist advice, so things like for heat decarbonisation plans and our decarbonisation strategy. We did energy audits out in the schools, water audits. Like Suzanne, we utilise the wonderful Severn Trent free water audit service. And we liaised with our suppliers to find out, what the impacts of our goods and services were. So I measured our carbon footprint for the first time 2.5 years ago, and looked at, what that baseline was for us. And this is last year's carbon footprint. We managed to reduce our overall carbon footprint by 6% last year. So it might not seem a lot, but it was hard won. And most of that was down to behaviour change and efficiencies before we started investing actually in other things that will bring it down. And this was absolutely vital in letting us highlight what the key areas to focus on were. And this huge purple one here was our food, our catering services. And clearly that was a really key area for us to address. Also cleaning, construction, buildings maintenance, but also paper, IT, photocopying. So that really helped us to sort of solidify our thinking in terms of what to focus on, what was going to have the biggest impact. But actually, the most important thing for us is our children and what they believe and what they want to focus on. So we started off by setting up a sustainability work group across all our operations, to really challenge each other, think about how sustainability was going to fit into each of those operational areas. So IT, estates, procurement, finance, and that's been really successful in getting everyone on board and getting everyone working together for the same goals. We've got an overarching sustainability action plan, which was shared with them and also our sustainability network. We've got a lead in each school whose job is to drive that and get everyone on board in each school. And I've spent 2 years doing regular CPD for those sustainability leads, so that they were upskilled and really clear on what the priorities were before we even started on our climate action plan. I worked with lovely Sarah Mills at Let's Go Zero to create a model climate action plan, which we gave to our schools to try and take that load away from them, because this is an addition to the day job. It's, you know, however passionate you are, there are only so many hours in the day. So that went out to schools in the autumn, and they've been working on those ready for implementation. And our pupil parliament. So termly, our children come together, representatives from each school come together to talk about the knotty problems that we're dealing with in our schools, share their successes and drive this. It's really important to us that the children are driving this. They go back to their schools and share with the Eco Council back at school or the Eco Warriors, and also they lead assemblies. It's all about taking that information back to school and having the biggest impact we can. We implemented CPD for staff in addition to the sustainability network, for our site teams, for our finance teams, so that everybody had that depth of understanding, and also carbon literacy training. It's been a game changer in getting people on board with that. We run that in-house. I run that for our staff. Also, we've invited suppliers to that as well. So those key suppliers are on board with the same messaging, the same understanding, and that's really helped. We've put in a programme of behaviour change, which is a child-friendly one, and I'll go on to share that with you in a minute. And we've also reviewed our curriculum. So making that really clear distinction between our climate change education curriculum, which is embedded within our curriculum subjects, and our efforts to change behaviour and those opportunities for children to take action within their communities. So whilst, you know, they're interlinked, those things, we want to keep them really clearly distinct. So our Eco Schools activities are not a replacement for that deep climate change education. So our pupil parliament have voted on their sustainability pledges. They reviewed these this spring, and it really showed the deepening understanding that they've got now in that they've refined these. For example, in the previous pledges, they had litter picking as one of them. They wanted to pick litter in their communities, which is really important. But at this pupil parliament, their view was, we should be doing that anyway, and it shouldn't be one of our pledges. We need to refine them, we need to move them on. So that's really a big focus. And you will notice at the bottom of the screen, these are our gang of superheroes designed by the children. Oh, I'll just get back a bit. And this is what we use for our communication strategy around this, so that children are getting really consistent messages using the same characters. We're building their stories. So there's a lot of storytelling as part of that. And I just wanted to share with you our annual pupil survey results from last autumn. We do this every September, and look at the issues that children are really focused on. And obviously that's translated into their pupil pledges as things that they're really keen to work on. And I also asked them, what do you think is going to affect your future the most? And you can clearly see that climate change is the thing that they're most worried about. And you know, we need to address that, and you know, we have, you know, a duty to do that within our curriculum. So this is the Spark Super Gang. We have Super Billy, our waste management superhero, Aqua Maria, obviously water, Mr. Carrot, who focuses on food waste and healthy eating. Biofly helps develop biodiversity on our sites, and this is DJ Supervolts, who is all about energy saving and efficiency. So they're fun. They're you know, the children really relate to them. The adults really relate to them. And so every time we have messaging to go out, we utilize these. So I've got a few examples that I've pulled from different things. So there's me challenging them about the reductions they'd made in the last year at our last pupil parliament. Really, you know, is it enough? We're doing a bit. Is it enough? Do we need to do more? When we installed solar PV onto 12 of our schools in the first wave of that, we used DJ Supervolts to explain the why around it. And it was really lovely to go out and visit a school a few weeks ago whose one of the year groups was learning about renewable technology in the curriculum. And they were actually out there looking at the solar panels, they were looking at the app, they were looking at the impact that it had. So not just an add-on, it's actually embedded within. We use our characters to share information with our children and families, and these are packs that go home with the children after we've had information giving in school. When we did water audits, we try to just tie it all together. So these are just examples of how we've done that. When we introduced simpler recycling in all of our schools in April to comply with the new legislation, we used good old Super Billy and Mr. Carrot to encourage the children to get on board with this, but also including our caterers in this. So they use the same superheroes in their messaging as well. The catering staff are working with the children to measure food waste. We supplied them with composters so they can compost their fruit waste. So it's that whole, you know, working together, both in school and outside. I'm really mindful of time, so I whiz ahead. And we had our pupil parliament 2 weeks ago, and the children came together and they shared all the wonderful things they're doing in school. And it's been palpable over the last 2 years how much more momentum that we're gathering each time the children come together and share something. It inspires them to go away and do more back in their schools. So we've got school allotments springing up. We've got lots of work with community shops to distribute excess food in several of our schools. We've got book swap campaigns. We've got school uniform swaps. We've got the solar panels going on, walk to school week going on in lots of our schools, and the WOW challenge with Living Streets. We've got stickers and active labelling in our schools that was funded by our energy supplier. We put a bid in for that and were successful. We've got even more allotments. We've got plants in our schools. We've got battery challenges, litter picking, food waste, composters. So it's all going on. And we've got a couple of eco schools, which is great, and more interested in joining. We've got one of our schools which has the WaterWise check mark, so we're really proud of that. But most importantly, seeing the vision of the action plan coming to life in our schools and the children driving it. So it's just embedding that culture of sustainability within everything that we do. And that's me done.
Thank you so much. Again, blown away by just how much you've done. And I think I love those cartoon characters. Biofly, I think, is my favourite. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. I'm going to hand over to Max to ask some questions. Max, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you, all the speakers. Some really interesting and varied takes on sustainability in school, and it's really nice that even with that variety, there are lots of kind of themes coming out, particularly around getting student voice as a key part of it, and also small steps and recognition coming through as well. We've had quite a busy old chat, but I've got the first question is for you, Francis, which is asking about green technology within eco schools, and what it is that schools normally focus on as part of this. So the idea being, is it kind of with the green technologies, they look within the websites, I think online specifically, or do you look more widely at the type of technology that you have in the school, and I guess energy efficiency around that?
So we, as I said, like, we never dictate what projects a school should complete. So it is entirely up to them. But like typical green technologies that a school might introduce are like solar panels, heat pumps, perhaps LED lighting is a really popular one. But I'm always, because we are like such a pupil-led program, I'm always very pro like utilizing the existing technology you have, but just reducing that technology's impact. So there was like a secondary school a couple of years ago who noticed that their computers automatically shut off. I think it was at 7 p.m. Obviously, that's when no one was in the school, so they changed it to 5 p.m. and teachers could opt out if they needed to be. But they save like, thousands of kilowatt hours of energy over the year. So, there is obviously like plenty of technology that can be introduced to it. But I always don't like seeing just technology as the solution because if you install solar panels in school, are they going to be installed on every pupil's home? It's also about changing behaviors around it, not just introducing technology.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's actually is a really, really good point, which I'm going to kind of pass on to Suzanne, because there was a mention in what you were speaking about, Suzanne, in terms of getting doing the actions alongside the curriculum. So having that kind of action alongside the learning engagement. I just wondered whether you could talk about just how useful that has been at Hollinswood.
Okay, well, it's been an uphill battle to get there, Max. I would say for multiple years, it was a bolt-on, like I said, and we were jumping up and down outside all the classrooms saying, could you do what our programs are? But we have a new sustainability lead. And he did this big roadmap of all the curriculum, all the way from nursery, all the way through to year 6. And in that, he did a green strand. And I worked with him on that. He also ran with it on his own, which was great. And so you could then start to see the progression of what they were doing maybe in reception. Well, why did that drop off? Why isn't that theme carrying through and being built upon? I think the biggest example of that was I was stopped in the hallway during COVID by the year 1 teacher who said, oh, Mrs. Verblok, do you know that we wrote letters to the supermarkets about single-use plastic bags? No, I had no idea. And now that has carried through because then I publicized it within school. So that's carried through. So those year 1s now do something else to build on it and build on it and build on it. And I think that's the most important thing of getting it in the curriculum. Also, time, medium-term planning, get it in there. And then you're not fighting, jumping up and down saying, please, can you do this?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I can completely see, and particularly kind of getting that legacy within the school so that, you're in a year group, you've seen the year group above you get involved in things that makes you even more motivated to do that yourself. Julie, finally, I know we're running out of time, but there seemed to be such a great student voice in everything that was going on at St. Bart's. And my question to you was that easy to achieve, and how important has that been?
I think it's absolutely fundamental to what we're doing. It's all about the children. It's got to come from them, and it was hard to get it going. We started off small, and engaged the core group of really passionate schools who were the trailblazers. Got the early adopters on board, and we went from 8 schools at our first pupil parliament to the last one. Every single school was represented, and every school brought a presentation to show what they've been doing in their schools. So yeah, really, really important. And the feedback from families is that it's going home as well. So I think it's vital. Children are the future, aren't they? But making sure that we address it sensitively and give them that hope that they can take action. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously kind of a lot more that we could ask, but unfortunately we're out of time. So I'll hand back to you, Alison.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are at time now. So just to reassure everyone that this recording will be sent out tomorrow, along with all the presentations, any of the useful links that came up. So just a massive thank you to all our speakers today. That was a whirlwind stop, but so informative, and we've had some really, really great feedback in the chat. So thank you very much, and see everyone later. Bye bye.